have a couple of newcomers here. We also have our merch store that's open, and you can find that on our website, xrwoman.com, and get your XR Woman merch there. And some of the designs are actually done by some of the ladies on our in our community. We are looking for sponsorship. We've just launched our sponsor program, and there's lots of opportunities for any companies that are looking to get involved with the community in our 3D worlds. Be any of the Wednesday events that we're holding. We have our XR Woman Museum in Frame with sponsor opportunities there. We're going to be live on stage again this year at AWE. The XR Woman Awards. There's just so many opportunities. We're already partnering with a lot of great organizations and are ramping up for sponsors. So if any of you are interested or know of any companies that might be interested, please do get in touch. If you go to our framevr.io/XR Woman Museum, you'll see the archives of everything that we've done in the past few years, thanks to Jenna Lambert for her awesome design skills. And we've started actually including artwork from people in our community. So we are looking for artists to be featured in the museum. It's a persistent open space, so you can go to it at any time, but just contact either Jenna or globalxrwoman@gmail.com for details on how to get your art featured there. So as I mentioned, we have our XR Awards coming up, and they're going to be live again this year at AWE on stage. And if you go to xrwoman.com, you'll see in the upper left-hand corner, there is a button for XR Woman Awards, and you'll see more information on the criteria and requirements for those nominations. But the deadline is May 1st at 2 p.m. Pacific time. And we have categories for real world impact, innovation, and trailblazer there. So please do go and nominate either yourselves or your peers for this award. So we have a t-shirt design contest to be placed in our merch store. We have done this before and we're doing it again, and we want to do it in time for people to get their merch before AWE. So our submission deadline is coming up on March 20th, and 3 designs will be chosen to be featured in our merch store. And yeah, so so it's just a way to, again, just get involved in the XR Women community, get your merch on some like physical assets as well, and showcase them to our XR community. So you can submit those to globalxrwoman@gmail.com. I believe Jenna is also heading this one up, so you can contact her specifically or any of us if you have any more questions on that. So we just got done with the Polly's WebXR Awards last week. A few of us were up there from this community, and you can see them here, but Julie, Karen, and I we're hosting the Polly's Awards, and so it was a very awesome experience. Again, pushing the boundaries of live virtual production. We did a lot of hybrid and mixed technical capabilities and features for this award show. We had a live audience. We also had a broadcast audience and audience in Engage and Nowhere, and a couple other metaverse watch parties. And we did some really, really cool stuff. And I'll let Julie comment on it if she wants to say a couple words about the experience.
Yeah, it was quite a show. It was a whirlwind couple of days in Brooklyn, New York, producing this, and a very technical show that had multiple worlds and audio feeds, video feeds, people in the studio in Brooklyn, as well as in virtual worlds. And yes, we did have technical glitches, so we're cleaning those up and we're going to release it We celebrated the people who are building these spaces and, developer of the year, innovator of the year. Paige was there. She won community honor, which was amazing. So it was really good collection of our XR community, and we'll continue to celebrate again this year.
Yeah.
So it was a great time to honor everybody. Thanks, Sophia. Back to you.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And if anybody wants to learn more, get involved with next year's production, feel free to reach out as well, because our team just gets bigger every year, just because of the uniqueness of um, some of the technical capabilities that we pull off. So it's a really cool project to be a part of. So enough of that. So we have just some upcoming events here. VRAR Chicago, which is close partners and friends of ours. They're hosting a panel on arts, AV, and communications, featuring some of our ladies from our community there. And then we have lots of stuff going on at South by Southwest, but this is just one panel that we're calling out just because we know and love Amy Peck, as well as Dan Berger. Actually, he's a trailblazer in the Vancouver area. But Amy Peck is also a good friend of ours. But there's lots of awesome stuff going on at South by Southwest. If any of you guys are going, I believe there are people that have been asking about it in our general chat in Slack. So do keep up with what's going on there and meet up with some of our community members there. So International Women's Day is March 8th. So just be aware of that we're just celebrating women from around the world and all of our accomplishments. One of the things that I liked that one of the other women's groups that I'm a part of, what I saw them doing is amplifying each other's posts and messages. So if there's something that somebody wants to amplify, they'll post it in the thread, and then they'll ask people to share it out. So, but if you see anybody, especially in our community, but any women and allies that are posting their achievements and accomplishments, do make sure to give them some love, share it, comment on it, and just show them that their achievements are appreciated. Some other news about AI, AI energy. I don't really know what happened with the airline that's held liable for its chatbot giving passengers bad advice. But that will be interesting to look up. I'm definitely going to look that up after this. And then some of the good is AI reveals brain oscillations for memory and disease. So it'll be interesting to see how it can help kind of overcome and diagnose some of these diseases earlier on. And then for those of you that haven't gotten started with AI, there's some easy uses to kind of incorporate in your personal and professional life, like the ones that are listed there. I also use it for quick edits on any documents that I'm writing or emails that I'm writing, and I just say make this sound more professional, and it works really, really well. So those are some easy uses to use generative AI in your everyday. So next week, we have Trisha and Jenna that will be representing XR Women at it's an AWE. So AWE is basically, they're highlighting different communities and organizations that are doing good for our industry and our community. And so XR Women was chosen to be part of that discussion, along with XR Guild, the XR Association, and Hope for Haiti. And so we'll be hosting them in Frame, and it's during our normal hour. So it'll be an XR Woman hosted event on behalf of AWE and these other organizations. So they're going to be sitting on a panel, and it will be live streamed, I believe, to LinkedIn and through AWE channels. So it'll definitely be one to come to learn about some of the other supporting organizations of our community. On March 20th, we have Dominique Wu that's coming to speak with us about spatial design principles. And then we have more upcoming events that you can see here. And then just remember that April 3rd is our spring break. We will not be meeting on that day. And now I'm going to turn it over to Erin for today's presentation. And Erin, I'm going to stop sharing my screen if you want to continue sharing yours.
Thanks so much. Good afternoon, good morning. I'm just gonna pull up
I think
sharing
Trisha
here.
was going to do a bit of a introduction, right, Trish?
Yes, 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 I was.
Go for
Oops.
While you're setting up, we can do that and I not give my back to people. Hold
Oops. Sorry.
all right. So, welcome everybody. Today, welcome to XR Women Wednesday. Erin Leslie is a leadership coach and career strategist who will enable any professional or team to achieve their career aspirations through personal development, training, and coaching. She believes that every career could benefit from mentorship. She sees the opportunity in anyone who is stuck or does not know the right actions to propel them towards their next success. Erin practices one on one coaching with clients and mentees across all industries. Certified in EQI 2.0 assessments, Erin specializes in emotional intelligence practices and tools to support a stronger emotional quotient in the workplace. Her emotional intelligence keynote provides insights from 20 years as a business career woman in tech, combined with a tailored coaching style. She has the intuitive ability to uncover personal or environmental barriers and helps identify new goals for your business audience, helping professionals, teams, and newcomers with all aspects of business negotiation, personal branding, networking, and business culture is not only a vocation, but it is her passion. If there is anything else to add about Erin Leslie, is that she is an awesome human being, a super connector, and fun fact, Erin is actually is the reason how I became connected with XR Women because she introduced me 4 years ago to Julie Smithson. She's like, there's an amazing couple doing things. They have their own company called the Metaverse. I think Alan is here too. So the super connector got me
it.
into VR, and this is actually her first. Is this your first time in
Yes,
one
it
of our
is.
meetings? So she's here. So here we are. It's like a full circle moment for me. Please join me in welcoming, giving her a warm XR Woman welcome to Erin Leslie.
Thank you, Trisha. Thank you so much. You guys can hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Okay. And I'm sure you can see the presentation on your screen. So thank you, XR Women, for hosting me today and allowing me to share in this experience. It's my first time presenting in augmented reality, and I have to say that it's so different from everything else, and I understand what it means to so many different people to be in this space, to really be able to be who you want to be, and to explore possibilities beyond the realm of real life. And what I really enjoy is that I didn't have to put on any lipstick today. So this is great. Like showing up as my avatar. It's wonderful. Thank you so much. So today we're going to talk about emotional intelligence. I think there's a lot of links between emotional intelligence and augmented reality and XR. There's a lot of discussion around XR and bias and using emotional intelligence to break down barriers so that even the things that you can find here that are barriers can be better experienced and better connected. So I think it's a really timely conversation for the world that we're interacting in right now and the types of things that people are generally interested here. So thank you. Of course, it's International Women's Month, and this Friday being International Women's Day, and connecting to this year's theme on Inspire Inclusion, we're going to dive into a little bit of those themes today. Thank you. So one of the key factors of my world in being an emotional intelligence specialist and helping people lead in their careers and building great teams is the ability to leverage vulnerable leadership. And I love using the word vulnerable because it's everything but weakness. It's a power word. And helping people connect to how to empower themselves, how to be more self-aware, and leveraging EQ and EI to do that. And so our abilities as leaders, to harness who we are and bring ourselves authentically to our environments helps us succeed. And that success is rooted in vulnerable leadership. So we're going to explore a little bit of that topic. I'm usually interactive, so I wasn't sure how that would play out in augmented reality. So I did strip out a lot of interaction in this, but I did want to give an opportunity for people just to like shout out, what does equity mean to you? And so if you could just share a word that what does equity mean to you in your world, just to get us started.
About fairness.
Fairness. Great.
Value.
Yeah.
Inclusion.
Okay. Well, that's inclusion. Yeah, great. So basically, just to give you ideas of equity, it's what you take into your environment and allow for people to connect with you and make sure that you're seen and heard on a level that is fair and at line with everyone else, right? And so equity means so many different things to people. And so just giving that opportunity to throw out words and bring those ideas to the top of mind so that our muscle memory can start growing those ideas. So I get that some people might not be comfortable shouting out. That's perfectly fine. Let's move forward and just kind of talk about, some of the things that we experience as women, just off the top, women, some of the things that we hear in industries like women don't like to talk about money, and so therefore women don't try to improve their compensation. So there's a connection where some women might be, fearful of talking about negotiation and going after things, and that's predicated on individuals or society saying that women don't like to talk about money. We have the power to change that. And so using our, negotiation tools helps us understand how to advocate for ourselves. And advocation, again, is rooted in self-awareness. Other stigmas like women don't like to ask for help, women don't know how to delegate. These are stigmas that we are still trying to break down. Women don't want to disturb, or they want to be small. Women don't want bold roles. That's, we know that that's not the case. We know that opportunities exist for women in all different forms, but we're still struggling to create those spaces in executive roles. Women don't participate up front. That's a stigma, a societal, uh, stigma, and that women are more comfortable in support roles, that we're more nurturing. We have to change the language around nurture is great, but it doesn't mean that we want to sit down. It doesn't mean that we want to take a back seat. Women don't like competition, or that women don't like to be assertive. These are really things that we need to eradicate in our language, in our society. And International Women's Day, International Women's Month, it's really an everyday thing, but we have to help one another and support each other in breaking down some of these still today common myths and societal views that are either spoken or unspoken about women. And so equity and inclusion takes different lens. And how do we apply ourselves to advocate for equity and inclusion? What are some of the things where we can see areas to support that? Whether it's creating a work-life balance so that people can also tend to their families while they tend to their careers. Um, being more retrospective or reflective on breaking biases and how we have assumptions and we have learned behavior that attribute to those biases, and how we can be more reflective on that. The normalization of work accommodations, and that asking for accommodation is not something that should be viewed as a less than, but making sure that nobody's left out of the team, or out of the workforce. And so um, you know the asking for accommodation is something that needs to be normalized. Accessibility and being able to ensure that whatever you're building, a product, a service, whether it's a brand or an application, a system, that it includes all the visible and invisible accessibility needs, and or those that are experienced situationally or episodically. when someone has a temporary need and they need that support. So building that user experience from the beginning and including in all of our developments, all of our interactions, how do we put the human first? And changing the language on that human first component so that whatever we're driving, whether it's a capitalistic, a social, and economic and environmental um, delivery, product or service, we are really thinking about humans and how they fit into the equation. Emotional intelligence is the foundation of a lot of these systematic things that we need to break down or reinforce in order to be more inclusive. And what is emotional intelligence? A lot of people still question what is that. Even though we use this data every day, we're always leveraging information, data, emotional intelligence data. It's a set of emotions, emotional and social skills that we leverage to guide the way we perceive others and how they feel and how we express ourselves to cultivate and maintain social relationships, cope with change, assess challenges, and really connect and use that in an effective and meaningful way. I like to say it's the internal suit that the person wears in life that can or can't be seen or anticipated. You choose to decide what feelings and emotions you bring into your day, into your workspace, or into your personal life. You decide how you want to show up and be seen. And being more conscious about emotional intelligence allows you to demonstrate to others those powers and give them more data to connect with you or take it away and be more invisible. And so, for the purpose of what we're discussing here, it's how do we empower each other with EQ? Now, in terms of careers and spaces like that, just Googling the top job requirements, job skill requirements, you get a lot of feedback on leadership, customer excellence, problem solving. Those are the top skills that are probably found today. Being influential, having the ability to, active listening, to set clear directions, finding solutions and resolving in a timely manner. Those are some of the key things that individuals are seeking. But if you look at it from an inner emotional intelligence lens, the traits that are highly sought after are the ability to communicate and quickly, which isn't always easy for people who are neurodivergent. We're talking about accessibility and the ability to convey messages quickly. That's not everybody's brain processing capacity, but communication in general is a skill that's really important in order to build relationships and get things done, right? Conflict resolution is really important to maintain relationships in the face of conflict and get to the point of how do we get to solve those problems quickly. In those moments, it's so important to find out who's along on the ride and who's left out of those conflicts because they don't have the same strength or assertivity or ability to advocate for themselves. And so, how do leaders bring them along in that journey? And of course, reality testing is huge for making sure that you're not presenting a bias, that you can read the room, and that people know that you see them. Being able to test out what others think and feel and incorporating that into whatever you're doing, it drives up inclusivity and it drives up the sense of community, which is really important when you want to build anything. So, vulnerable leadership is a catalyst for a new type of leadership, if you would, than some of the more traditional ones, democratic, even coaching, situational, servant leadership. Vulnerability is the ability to say, I'm authentically who I am. I'm sharing with you certain anecdotes that will allow you to understand how I lead and what I do and why I do it, and connect to your world on an emotional level so that you can resonate with me so we can work better together. And so when we talk about leadership, a lot of people think that that is something that is hierarchically driven in an organization, that it's anointed to you when you get a promotion. But leadership is not something that you're given, it's something that you do. You are a leader. You're all leaders. Whether or not you decide to lead is completely within your control. And when you need to lead or when you can not lead is also within your control. And so leadership is learned, it's developed, it is not handed to you. And so when you seek others for guidance and experience, it's based on the way that they play their role and not so much necessarily as a leader, but someone who is there to support you and with knowledge and experience. You too can be that person. And it doesn't matter where you sit in an organization. So just having that concept of I am a vulnerable leader or I want to be a vulnerable leader so that I can support others in the journey, whatever that journey is hugely empowering. Self-awareness is the table stakes, the foundation of emotional intelligence. And all different walks of life see self-awareness differently. And how you have been taught self-awareness or how you show up or how you try to reflect is really important on your experiences. It's based on your lived experience and how you got to where you are. The first shapers of your life could be your parents, your friends, your family, and influences that got you to where you are today. Interestingly, in this article on self-awareness, how women of color can leverage emotional intelligence. This particular viewpoint talks about how women of color has always needed to be emotionally intelligent in order to survive and adapt to a white privileged environment, and how women of color pay an emotional tax. So these are new words to some people, but are very common words to other people who have been experiencing that emotional tax, who are constantly having to dig in and find other ways to connect with people because they are not being accepted into society or not accepted into the world in which they're interacting with. It expends huge amounts of energy, and in the form of emotional labor. This article talks about double bind dilemma. And if you have not, kind of looked into double bind dilemma, it's no matter how you show up, you still have to conform, right? And if you do it one way, you're judged on that side, and if you do it another way, you're judged on that side. So really, how do you go into a space and survive and be able to demonstrate emotional intelligence and not continually to be what I call re-traumatized, but just simply accepted, and creating a space where allies can advocate, can create acceptance, can correct other people's behavior in a very, even diplomatic way, but very assertive way, supports the building of spaces that are safe, spaces that can open up to not having to think about the emotional tax, not having to deliver on expectations, but just be who you are, bring your full self to that authentic space, and be able to then invest in your own self awareness. Because what this article is highlighting is that if you spend so much time trying to figure out the people around you, trying to navigate those individuals and their agendas, you spend less time investing in yourself. You don't have the energy to have that self-awareness. And I think for this article to shine a light on one particular area, women of color, but if you just look at all the different types of situations that are going across the world and even in your own backyard, you just open up so many different ideas that, for me as a white privileged person, I always talk about I'm constantly trying to scratch the surface of other people's experiences so that I can have a good place to support and lend a hand without putting on more pressures. And that is my work that I have to do. And so these types of conversations are really, really important to build out more awareness and have those uncomfortable conversations all the time so that we can bridge the gap and make people more aware of how they contribute to these societal damaging circumstances. I think that really leads us into this space where if we seek feedback on who we are, then it's just going to improve us so much better. And I like when Daniel Goleman states that the range of what we think and do is limited by what we fail to notice. And so if we just work in the confines of how we move ourselves, we will not evolve. But if we seek the feedback of others around us and check in and say, how did you see me when I said that? What did you get from that experience with me? Do you think that that was fair, what I did? And get that feedback from different parties, not the ones that you affiliate with every day as well, but others that you may not necessarily go and seek those questions, open up those channels to new ideas, new inputs, and different cultural assessment of yourself. That feedback is gold. That is so empowering because how you see yourself is what you project to the world. One of the ways that you can support yourself in understanding better development of emotional intelligence and connecting to people is understanding your emotional regulation. And this checklist is great. I tell everyone to print it out and put it next to your computer because when you're in the moment of dealing with something that you may or may not be reacting to in a in a well mannered state, for example, you might need time, you might need to step away, but you're experiencing some level of emotional reaction. This checklist will help you remember certain things that you can do. So, for example, when I'm dealing with my emotions, how do I make sure that my emotions are guiding me towards the things that I want in my future? So, you're setting these goals and you're setting these opportunities, but what if your emotions are detracting you from them? What then? You have to self reflect. You have to figure out if I experience this, I have a traumatic reaction that's preventing me from getting to my goal. How do I regulate my reaction to those things? And so we have to start finding ways where we can support ourselves, support our nervous system, support our system that has fight or flight constantly going and checking in to say, how do I keep a space where I can think about things, where I can reflect and not have those reactions so much so I can continue driving towards my goals? How can I prevent my urges and emotions from automatically guiding my behavior somewhere that I don't necessarily want it to take? And what is the most appropriate emotion regulation skill that I can use to deal with the demands of a situation as it's happening? One of the biggest skills I use is perspective, looking at it in a future sense and saying, if this were to happen, how will I react? Preparing myself and visualizing what I'm going to do, whether I end up doing it or not. I've mentally prepared myself when I get there, that I'll be better in control of how I want those outcomes to happen than my fight or flight response. And in the moments where I feel like I'm having those emotional reactions, but I'm not in a space where I can control them, that I need to say, I need to step away for a second. Thank you. I'm just going to take a moment. I'm going to get a glass of water. I'll be back. Or I'll get back to you tomorrow. Thank you. I need to think on that. Or I go for a walk and I just like get my body moving so that I can work out the reactions that I'm having. I put things in place so that I can ensure that my emotional regulation supports the goals that I'm trying to do. And whether that's meditating, journaling, call a friend, drink a water, go for a walk. There are things that we can do to know that the moment we can't make those decisions succinctly and rationally or in an emotional state that supports us, we put those things in play. So this is a great checklist for anybody. And so when we're looking at how to advocate and how to support one another and how to expand the abilities that women are trying to reach, we know that everything in our day is in a negotiation. From the moment you get up, you're negotiating like who's going to make breakfast, who's going to drive the car, who's going to take the kids to school, who's going to go get the groceries. You're negotiating all the time on different levels. And then in your work and then in your sport, you're constantly fighting for certain types of need and benefit. And so being able to negotiate, understanding the ramification of negotiation, it helps you advocate for yourself and it helps you create what you think is fair and translate that to other people. And the opposite of negotiating is influencing, that you don't have to necessarily have a sit down, dialogue and debate about what it is that you want, but that you're able to influence, that you're an expert in your field, that you have an empowered sense of self. You've worked on yourself, you've created that space, and you know what you want, and you just do it. And that self awareness is embedded in influence. On a negotiation level, we know that men negotiate about 4 times more than women in, let's say, business, but it could be in a lot of different contexts. we're starting to see in recent years that women are advocating more for themselves as women take up more space in the world. But to be in 2024 and still talking about how women need to take up space, it's amazing to me. We truly could do a lot more if we supported and engaged each other on an even playing field. And being an ally for racialized persons also means being an ally for women, especially women minorities or racialized women, and being able to support the building blocks to get to those different levels that anyone is seeking, whether it's personal, whether it's business, whether it's societal, educational, family supports, all of those things. And so if you're not quite sure what you need to do to be able to negotiate, to be able to advocate for yourself, here's some things you can do. When you're just sitting down and trying to even communicate with your spouse, your partner, your family members, or your boss, you want to know what your big ask is. What is that goal that you're trying to achieve? Everything is goal driven. Everything is goal driven in life. And so, what are the reasons that you personally want to succeed in that outcome? Write down everything that you can think of. What are your skills, your accomplishments? What's your track record to get there? Those are the things that you're packaging into who you want to become in that goal. And then what are you willing to leave on the table if you don't get everything? What's the one thing that you're like, yeah, that's okay. I can negotiate that one out. Because you want to know if you couldn't have everything, what is it that you'd be okay to let go of? And make sure that you negotiate that one as being the most obtainable. And then the other person might cancel the one that you actually don't want, right? So you're creating a strategy for how you want to go about things. And then you might say, well, I've got these things that I really want to negotiate, but then I have this other list. There's never two chances to negotiate, there's only one. So you're going to package everything into that first conversation. You want to make it stick. The other thing is you always want to know what is the outcomes and goals of the person sitting in front of you or the group or the team. What's in it for them? What are they trying to advocate for? What's the competition? When you know their interests and goals, then you can use them against them to negotiate for yourself. And using them against them is like in the context of, let's say I'm trying to negotiate compensation with my organization and I know that they want me to increase revenues, but I'm trying to find a way to demonstrate to them how I do that already and that I'm indispensable. And then once you deliver that message, make sure you take in all the information, read the visuals of the faces, look at the body language, understand like the words that are being reflected back to you. Is it pause? Is it uncertainty? Is it quick dismissal? What is happening right off the bat? Because then you'll know if you're in a chess move or if you're in a checkmate. And at the end of the day, as you start to advocate more for yourself, the biggest thing is just to try, right? Because if you have to work that muscle hasn't been perfected yet. It's going to be like everything else, a life journey. And when you try, you learn. What's the worst that can happen? When we look at, the things that we're taught as we go through this planet, that failure doesn't equal weakness. We're learning that. We're really learning that failure is about trying. And failure isn't about being unsuccessful. It's about learning more data so that we can do it better the next time. And that hierarchy is not a consent to discriminate, harass, or dismiss. And that we're done with political and corporate structures really determining how we are going to be treated with our bodies, with our minds, and with our money. And so asking for accommodation, increasing the conversation about equity actually just builds a space where we can be stronger together. Especially when you're looking at your work and the work that you need to do, if you're not connected on the level where you can fully bring yourself to work and be who you need to be, then that organization doesn't even respect you. That's actually a mantra for life. If you can't bring who you want to be to anything, then is it worth being in those spaces? Are those the right places for you? There are good cultures and there are bad cultures, and we want to try to support better culture to make less space for bad culture. And in that, whether you're in anywhere in the world, you know, to To armor yourself with the right information is knowing your rights, knowing your standards, knowing your health and safety standards, your disability acts, your labor codes, wherever you are, they exist in your environment. And those are actually the tools that the system wants you to use. And so leverage them, understand them, and stand up for your human rights. As women achieve power, the barriers will fall. As society sees what women can do, as women see what women can do, there will be more women out there doing things, and we'll all be better for it. This quote is from Ruth Ginsburg, and it's really sits with me on that center middle line that says, as women see what women can do, not just about seeing someone else in a place where they're like, oh, I can achieve those goals because I see myself in that person, but also I see that woman needing help and I want to reach out and support. To me, that's really what this is all about, is building within the structures that we need to empower each other. And so whether we're talking about leadership or supporting one another or building a space where we want to be more connected, to me, there's four keys of leadership: the ability to observe and apply empathy, ask the questions that matter so that we can reality test on what we need to pivot or include, listen to those answers and do active listening in order to create a space where you're building an awareness organizationally that matters or through a team, and act on those things. Make a list, task yourself, and create the motivation for others to follow so that you can lead to a better place for everyone. Leaders are leaders because they have specific words and actions that will enable others to support that mission. And so leaders are really powerful when they can use their own anecdotes, their own lives, their own stories to relay information. The Harvard Business Review, The Best Leaders Aren't Afraid to Be Vulnerable, is a conversation around how confessions and stories are powerful tools for motivation. Storytelling is an art, but it allows you to connect on a human level and demonstrate your capabilities of perseverance, courage, resilience, and relate it to the environment around you, and be able to share your brand so that no matter who is out there, they can connect to you. So ask for help, set strong boundaries. This is really an area that a lot of people struggle with, is being able to respect your goals and creating those boundaries for others. Always negotiate. Know your teams or your family's limits and don't exceed or reach them. Identify risks up front that could turn into issues and support your team no matter what are ways to help create a balance for everyone to be seen and support the common goal. Experiences throughout our lives bring us to where we are, but they also make us avoid things that we are trying to not have happen again. So, whether it's trauma or other types of experiences, what we've been affected by a human or an experience in a different situation, we will navigate different pathways to make sure that we don't come across that again. And sometimes we're just needing to grieve the situation so that we're not using it as an excuse to avoid something in the future that could actually be a strong possibility for something positive in our lives. So that self-awareness is really important in making sure that we check in on our experiences and that we don't create those barriers or biases by them that might impede our ability to connect with people or be successful. I really like the conversations around bias and exploring bias. And I think, if you want to understand more about affinity bias, emotional information around bias, interpreting others, how to break down assumptions, there's a lot of information out there to support your own knowledge in exploring bias, but also acknowledging and looking for people who can support your weaknesses and empower you with more information. Understanding neurodiversity is a huge power tool in being able to connect with people in that space. There's lots of neurodivergent individuals, and there's more as people get diagnosed later in life that were not diagnosed in their early years. Um, so ask yourself, do I know about other people's cultures and how they support the connectivity of who we are all? And if not, how do I learn about culturalism? and getting mentors so that we can fact check that we're doing the right things and that we're supporting the people around us. I always say a coach is a really great place to level up your own game and stay connected and committed. And for the team, just be sure that you make sure that they understand how to train for failure, how to handle it, and how to empower themselves. Remind people why they are the expert in what they do and how much you value them in what they do. And ask people, no matter what scenario you're in, how does that make you feel is the most valuable question you could also always ask them. It doesn't matter what you're talking about. It could be, hey, here's the agenda for tomorrow. The question after that could be, how does that agenda make you feel? Right? Because you're going to get so much feedback from people on how they really relate to some of the simplest things when you ask that question. And building acceptance is huge. So just acknowledging that we all live in this world where we're in these screens, we're in different realities, and that we have more information. And with that information, we have more power to either build a better dynamic or to ignore. And I always feel like if we can take that extra information that we're learning in these screens and use it to improve our lives, then we're going to create a more collaborative community. Remember, vulnerability is not a weakness, it's always an opportunity. Thank you.
Amazing. That was awesome. I feel like I was in a
Thanks,
trance,
everyone.
Erin. Thank you.
So thank you so much.
Does anybody have any questions for Erin? Turn your mic on and ask any questions. It is almost top of the hour though. Yes, it was a wonderful presentation, but just keeping everybody on track for the day. It is almost 1 o'clock Eastern. Um, if anybody, maybe what we'll do is we'll close off here, and I'm not sure how much time you have, Erin, to stick around. If anybody has any questions, you're welcome to do so. Thank you everybody for joining today. It was a real pleasure to have everybody here. And Erin, thank you so much for joining our XR women community. I just, wow, so many things are just floating in my head right now based on what you've just shared. So thank you.
Thank you so much. This has been a great experience.
I have a question for you,
Yes.
Erin.
Yeah,
How did it make you
go
feel?
for it.
How did it make you feel being
That's a
here,
good question.
delivering that?
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, actually,